Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you wherever you are listening and watching from. I'm Robert Johnson, your host of the Build It Better podcast powered by FRAMECAD. We are jumping into the first of a two-part series with Joe Trednic, who is the president and CEO of Profab and Framecor. He is a FRAMECAD manufacturer and general contractor that is based in Arizona. And this guy is doing some exciting things in the residential market. He is also into multifamily, commercial construction, custom home building. He's all over it and in the middle of it all. So you will see that we have some great discussion, some great points. Get you a piece of paper, get ready to take notes, and let's just jump in early here because we've got a lot to cover with Joe Trednic, CEO of FRAMECAD and Framecor. We are with Joe Trednic today, who is the president and CEO of Profab and Framecor. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
I guess I ought to start by saying you are very esteemed in that you are our first live interview on the podcast. So I've been really excited about it, and I think we'll have a bunch of good things to talk about here. Give us a little background on you and exactly what you do, what brought you to do what you do, and a little bit about Profab and Framecor.
Perfect. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me today.
Sure.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Again, my name is Joe Trednic. I've been in construction pretty much all of my life, predominantly commercial general contracting for the last 15 years.
Here in the Valley?
Here in the Valley,
Okay.
yes. During my experiences with the general contracting side, building hotels and apartment complexes, we've always had a sticking point with the framers, wood framers, in particular. So became very interested in, light gauge steel manufacturing through the FRAMECAD machines about 4 years ago. Decided to pull the trigger on that and founded Framecor with a couple partners and myself.
And how long ago was this? I'm sorry.
About 3 years ago.
Okay.
We decided 4 years ago we were going to do it, but actually formed it 3 years ago. And in the last, 3 months, I bought out my partners, so now I'm the sole owner of both companies.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So when you made the move to FRAMECAD, that meant that you went from a wood-centric system to a light gauge steel or cold form steel.
Correct. Yes.
Is there a place for cold form steel in residential construction?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I'm going to start off. I'm actually in the middle of $17 million hillside estate that's residential.
Is that up in Flagstaff?
Nope, it's right here on Camelback Mountain.
You do have a commercial, like a multifamily going on, or coming up in Flagstaff.
Yes, yeah,
okay.
Elkwood.
We'll talk about it. There we go.
Okay,
Perfect.
Elkwood, yes. That one is going. We're right now in the process of finalizing the engineering and design files so we can start manufacturing the steel in the next 30 days.
And if I'm correct, and I'm going to throw this in just because it's a plug, because we're going to have them on.
Sure.
I believe you're utilizing ICS, whatever it is.
Yes.
Used to be Project Frog. That's
Correct.
what we've been.
Yes.
Matthew,
Comer.
Jason, and Crystal.
Correct.
Yeah, great bunch. We'll have them on. They've really kind of figured out this whole prefab construction piece and saved me tens of thousands of dollars in previous projects. So anyway,
100%.
I digress, but go ahead. So we're back to and residential construction is really what I'm going to push for several episodes because we're in such need, and especially here in the Valley, but not only Valley, but globally.
Yes.
Residential, we're way behind the curve.
Yes.
So hillside, and it is located where?
Camelback Mountain. Yeah, it'll be a $17 million, about 18,000 square foot hillside estate, and I'm working directly with the.
So it's a custom home.
Oh, absolutely.
Luxury living. I mean,
to the nth degree. I mean, to the point where the first floor has basically a turntable for his exotic car collection.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's cool.
And you're going to do it primarily all out of CFS.
Correct.
Obviously, if you need red iron for big sliders or things
the
like
exoskeleton will be the red iron. However, all of the other components will be the light gauge steel.
Okay. So it'll be what I like to call, and we'll talk about this a little bit too, because what I like to call the traditional, what people think of traditional metal stud framing, they think of red iron, concrete floors, and flyby or infill framing.
Right.
And then there is what you're doing in the single-family rental build-to-rent market, which is 100% cold form steel with no red iron in it.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Yes, I'm going to be making a very, very large play with some strategic partners in that market. So yes, and currently working with some of the biggest in the Southwest.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you to throw a number. I've seen the number, but I want you to say it. So we're talking an impact on how many single-family residences?
Well, just my pipeline with this particular group, north of 4,000 units.
Yeah.
And that's spread out over North Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, Northern Arizona.
Yeah. It's
Casa Grande, everywhere.
People are really starting to get it.
They are.
I have, and this isn't about me, but I've been in the business development piece of this in this industry now for several years. It's taken a lot to get people there. I've talked to some of these same people that you're building for, that you're supplying panels for.
Yeah.
That, looked me in the eye and said, look, I've done the math. I don't care what you do. You're never going to be cheaper. You're never going to be faster than wood. And it's just mind blown. It's like, come on, seriously? You've done the math. So talk on that a little bit. What was kind of the tipping point? What made people make the change? Those typical traditional wood frame general contractors, developers, owners. What made them finally make the flip?
And just the speed and accuracy of which these structures go together, the fact that you can run this out of BIM and you can trace your mechanical, plumbing, electric. You have a complete three-dimensional diagram of what you're going to do before you do it. The interior, the wall-to-wall dimensions are so accurate within hundredths of an inch. You never run into those situations where your faucet doesn't line up with the center of your window. Those little things that developers, general contractors, owners, it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Those are eliminated. You can also start toying around with your finishes to where you're buying them net and not using so much waste and relying on skilled labor in the field for.
And you can do them much earlier. You can buy your millwork much earlier because
everything.
It's exact. What it shows on the drawing is what it's going to be in the field.
100%. You can do your fillers or you can do your fillers for the end of your cabinets to not conflict with your hardware. You can pre-cut all of those. You can now start. Basically, instead of using scribe molding, you can use blue tape and colored caulking. I mean, you can really take it up a level. You can buy your quartz basically net, maybe less than 1/8 inch on both sides.
Yep.
Again, you can caulk it in. There's no cutting. You're just basically putting the seams together in the field.
Yeah, it really does bring prefab
100%.
in everything. I mean, if you have the space to pre-purchase all these pieces and components, it's really just a plug and play.
It is 100%. Yeah, and I think there's a huge demand for that. There's a huge demand for affordable, quick houses that are going to be going up that are, non-wood structure. We've been toying around with some different technologies that I think are going to put us really in the forefront of that effort.
So, is it? I guess it. I mean, it's true to say that line item to line item cold form steel is going to be slightly more expensive than wood. Material to material.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, it will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, and you'll see where I'm going, and I think you'd already know where I'm going.
Yeah.
As builders and general contractors, we are conditioned to look at line item to line item. Well, I've got to make this comparison. I've got to buy this out. Well, this guy's cheaper, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's one thing to hear you and I talk about all of these efficiencies. Being able to do all that clash detection early. It's one thing to discuss it all. People really can't see it or envision it until it's done, until they actually get out there. And then when it's seen in person, it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is truly faster, look at and the things that you don't even think about, that we haven't even talked about, that come up, that you learn. Oh, well, I can do this now earlier. I can do this faster. And ultimately, what it winds up happening is that these developers and these owners are their subdivisions, their homes, their residences are ready before the guys 2 miles down the street. And we know here, it's in Arizona, there's a single family rental place popping up everywhere.
Absolutely.
And so the return on the investment is going to be faster. You're going to get people in yours where they're still waiting for one down the road. So it's exciting stuff. You mentioned about doing some things, and you've got a patented building envelope system.
Correct. I filed for 3 patents, 2 material patents and 1 process patent. It's a building envelope solution where we do the majority of the sheathing and waterproofing at the factory. One of my patents is a liquid applied waterproofing membrane for the windows. The second patent is a brown coat, which has an integral waterproofing system in there. So you don't need these multiple steps that these bigger companies like Drive It and Stow.
Yeah.
They try to use like 8 products. You can really take it into 2, and it goes on quickly. And then the sheathing product is a magnesium board, and then the waterproofing is just that, but it's also a brown coat. And then we use a cork exterior, which creates a thermal break, so it never gets above 87 or below 34. And then so you have basically a wall system, and then we're developing a hempcrete product for both horizontal and vertical application, and that's also a green. So everything's green, everything's fireproof, waterproof, termite proof, and I can do it at or below current market value on like for like.
See, this is such a big win for residential construction.
Yeah. It's going to be huge.
You mentioned Stow and Drive It and pre-finished panels. You've typically seen that in the commercial industry, especially in high rise. I say high rise. So you get out of the people. This same technology is going to work good. These same systems are going to work in mid rise, but you've typically seen that in high rise 10, 12. Where it's all fly-by framing. Mm-hmm. Where it's always been the struggle is making that application to the residential and to the mid-rise market, figuring out how to fly by those floor trusses and doing little pieces and parts to make things interesting. That's going to be huge for residential.
It will be, and we're starting off with the build to rent market, and then see where it goes from there. Whether we do licensing agreements to other FRAMECAD dealers or wherever it goes, it goes. But we've really developed some great trade relationships and some really interesting processes that I think are about as unique as they come. Just the fact that it's fireproof, waterproof, termite proof.
Yeah, it just continues all those advantages of making that change from wood to steel.
When you start adding all of those up, and the big change will be is once we start these, and then we get the endorsement from one of the larger insurance companies, which will eventually happen. That's where I think the big shift is going to really take place.
So you're utilizing magnesium board instead of an OSB.
Correct.
So you're staying with a totally non-combustible envelope.
Correct.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Which is the push that I have made for years and years. It doesn't make sense to do all this and then stick wood trusses on top or stick OSB on the outside or wood decking on the roof.
Yeah.
Why not take advantage? Because as we well know, especially in these big single-family rental and build-to-rent subdivisions that are hundreds of homes, that builder's risk delta is massive.
It's massive, and the other thing is that all the materials that we're going to be using can be pre-purchased ahead of time, stored outside indefinitely. So you really de-risk the project at the project level because you're not ever going back to the well. Oh, hey, we just had a spike in lumber. Okay, well, you got to go back to the well. That's not the case for us. And then additionally, like the hemp is a friend of mine. He is 2.8 million tons sitting there, ready to be used.
It's just the same distributor of the cork?
Nope, different.
Different guy.
Nope. This is a product we're going to be developing on our own. So we're going to have our own.
I know the cork guy, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So we're going to have our own product for the hemp. Right now, we're working out the bottom, the sheathing on the roof, the bottom quarter of the truss. Yeah. How to get that to mechanically fasten better. So we're working through that right now. But once that gets figured out, we'll have effectively a very, almost 100% green. You know, the cork is green, magnesium board's green, the lime and additives for the brown coat's green. The hempcrete is green. Steel is 70% recycled. I haven't gotten it tested yet, but I'm sure I'm going to hit LEED Platinum.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that without really. And again, the disclaimer is it hasn't been tested yet, but the knowing the components, we know where it's headed.
Yeah, but you get LEED Platinum, and then you get all of these things that are at market value or less, and you get the insurance ratings. I mean, it starts to really be a more compelling solution. So
yeah, one of the things that I heard often, it's starting to be a little less common, but how has the communication, how is the what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, the sub trades.
Yeah.
Because if you've been in commercial contracting, you know that metal studs is what they build out of. Your MEP trade partners, they all know it. It's no big deal. Yeah. But as you know, when we get into this residential market, though you're dealing with mechanical, electrical, and plumbing residential subcontractors that this is totally new to. What kind of feedback have you been getting from them once they really put their hands in it?
Okay, good question. At first, meet with the resistance.
Oh, it's going to. My price is going to be higher. Yeah, I heard it all the time. It's going to cost more.
And then they throw a big price on there, and I said, I've said this actually in the other interview we did, but I said, if you're not evolving, you're dying. So I look at the guy straight up and say, listen, you're going to be saving time, saving money, using less skilled labor. It's going to be pre-punched everywhere you go. If you guys can't snap a red and green or a blue and red grommet in holes for your pecs, you don't belong out here.
And if you need a hole somewhere, and we just design it in,
we'll put it
there.
Yeah, and part of our process is we always build mock-ups, and we invite all
wisdom, so much wisdom.
We invite all the MP&E guys out there and go through everything, and they get their chance to be like, oh, that top plate, I'd really like a punch there for a vent. Very good. Yes, we'll do that.
So that's really, and now it's kind of brought us full circle. That's really where the FRAMECAD systems come into. That's where they start earning their money.
100%.
One of the things that I have always been a big proponent of, even before I joined the team at FRAMECAD, is that FRAMECAD is more than just a machine. You and I, when we started initially into the thing, and we're talking FRAMECAD, it was all about the equipment. Let's equipment. But there's so much more to the mindset. Now I'm on this end of it. It's like, man, there's so much more that goes into the thought process, that goes into the technology, that goes into the innovation than what we see in the machine. And so it's that's one of the things that I'm hoping that we can build awareness around with the case studies that we've done recently. And then through this podcast is making people aware that, hey, this may seem new and is new to many. It's been used for dozens of years, for decades.
It's been around for a long time.
Just not here.
It's just slow to adopt in the States.
Yeah. And so, fun, really interesting stuff. So I want to give you an opportunity to talk about, so we've talked about the single family rental and custom home building, luxury home building. Which is really going to be really cool to see.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, actually.
And you and I'll get together because I'd like to get some video. I'd like to get some shots of that.
I plan on making a full marketing campaign around that, and yes, I'd share with everybody. It's going to be, it'll be a showpiece. It'll be one of those for your portfolio for sure.
Awesome, very good.
Yeah,
I want to give you an opportunity to talk about, because you're not just about, although multifamily is still considered residential construction. Getting into, and even single family rental is considered multifamily construction.
I know, it's kind of it's funny. The only thing I don't do is I haven't done a single family home one-off, like
2,500 square foot production home.
No,
it's coming.
It is. Not to digress with you, but I'd really like to see somebody at like maybe a corporate level start developing 200, 300, 400 floor plans that are now part of a database that you pay 100, 200, whatever the dollar amount is. I live in North Dakota. Closest FRAMECAD dealer is 100 miles away. Send the file to him, print my building, send it to me.
Duly noted, and has been in discussions. So
okay, good. All right, great. Yeah. That would be a really cool way of getting a lot more business to the individual dealers.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That brings up a good point. I'm gonna take your rabbit and I'm gonna chase it with you.
Okay.
So what I think is really what we're discussing here is that once you become a FrameCAD operator, there is the initial reaction of being overwhelmed. It's like there's so much to learn, and how do I make this, and how do the design, and I didn't start early enough. I started too late. I didn't whatever. But these things that you're talking about now is the mind of an innovator and the mind of a collaborator that starts thinking, okay, I've got this fantastic technology.
Yeah.
What can I do with it?
Yeah.
And it starts opening up these things that your person that's out there that's thinking about getting into it, that, oh man, they've been building with wood and they've struggled and they hate it and dealing with the people and they hear about this, but they're kind of hesitate to get into it. The things that this opens up. One of the things that we want to do at FrameCAD that we haven't, in all transparency, haven't done that well, is helping make our FrameCAD operators successful faster.
Right.
It's true.
It's 100%.
I mean, it was like, here's a machine.
There
High fives. See you later.
See you later.
And so,
and there's a lot to learn.
A lot to learn. Where to buy steel, the slit widths, gauges, G60, G90, millimeters. You just start going, your head explodes.
It does. It's overwhelming.
What do you mean I have to design it in FrameCAD and have a cold form steel engineer? And, I mean, all these things that's just like, is normal to us now.
Right. Like, do I need to hire an engineer? Do I need to do this?
Do I need to be an engineer?
Yeah.
Do I need to have an engineer in-house? Yeah.
Yeah. All of those things you really go through, and for me, personally, it was an emotional buy.
Sure.
I was like, this is what I want. I know it's going to be the future. Let's figure it out.
Yep.
For us, or me or us, whatever, we paid cash for the machine. So we didn't want a debt service, and we really wanted to find the right clients.
Yep.
And then we handpicked our top management. And we kept them on payroll, even though we weren't making any money on them. So we took it. We were fortunate that we were able to build with the best scenarios going forward. So that's why I feel like we're in a great position now.
An excellent position because you were an early adopter.
Yes,
especially in the western part of the United States.
Yes,
this has been much more prevalent in the East Coast and along the East Coast for many more years. But as an early adopter here. You've got it figured out, and there's still a lot to learn.
There's a lot to learn, right? Yeah,
but you are well down that path of knowing what to do and how to do it. Some good stuff from Joe today. We look forward to talking again with Joe in a couple of weeks. Make sure to follow us, subscribe, and catch us the next time when we do part 2 of our discussion with Joe Trednic. You've built it the old way. Now let's build it better.